The end of the year can be a time of joy and celebration, but for some people, this can be a tough time that triggers feelings of anxiety. That's because we often find ourselves reflecting, but sometimes we reflect on things that really aren't positive. So joining us now to talk about end of the year anxiety is Dr. Sue Varma, a board certified clinical psychologist. Good morning, Dr. Varma. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me.
So, it's very easy to take mental stock of the things that we did and didn't do during the year and then think, well, that doesn't really measure up to where I wanted to be or where I was supposed to be. So how do you cope with that feeling?
Yes. So I would say, listen, give yourself grace because we've all been through a lot. And when we're dealing with chronic stress, it's really hard to form new habits. And I would say, keep in mind certain key misconceptions that people have when they're measuring themselves up against a yardstick. Number one, change does not happen overnight. We know that most people, when they're creating new habits, require several start and fail attempts before they succeed. Change happens often in small increments. I'm a big believer that your daily habits truly are what reflects your life, right? We have these goals. Oftentimes, they might be a little lofty. I know from personal experience, but how do you actually spend your time is important. And looking at motivation and realizing that sometimes we have to put the cart before the horse. And what I mean by that is we have to simply act, right? If you're somebody who says, I want to be more active, well, you actually have to start being more active.
Yeah.
Motivation can come later. Waiting for inspiration or motivation to come from outside is a really big misconception. And lastly, remember that there's no right time to start, right? It doesn't have to be January 1st. It could be January 15th. It could be December 21st. So realizing that you set the start date, not anybody else.
I'm guilty of doing that. All right. The other thing is comparison. That can also be a huge part of this. Like maybe we can't clearly see our own accomplishments because we're too busy comparing ourselves to other people. So how do we break that negative cycle?
Exactly. And I'm so glad that you brought that up because especially with social media, we have everybody highlight reels, right? Like we don't realize the process. So I think it's really important for us to share the highs, the lows, and the process and what we learned. And if you shift your focus instead of being the end goal and the end accomplishment and judging success or failure in a very black and white term, if you're able to say, what did I learn? Because intrinsic motivation is all about your own curiosity, about your own learning. And then the parameters no longer become, did I reach the final goal? It's like, no, I actually got stronger, healthier, smarter, more connected, more inquisitive in the process. So the progress, not the product, is where you want to put your emphasis.
Yeah.
And not looking at other people, measuring yourself by who you were yesterday, not somebody else, because it's really an unfair comparison. Comparisons are moving targets. You're chasing something that doesn't exist, to be honest.
And everyone's successes are different, really, right?
Absolutely. And what you value is different, and your time, your priorities, your circumstances, your resources. So it's really comparing apples and oranges.
Well, the end of 2021, it also comes at a time where we're nearly 2 years into a pandemic, and there's still so much anxiety surrounding COVID. So how do we cope with that uncertainty?
Uncertainty is so difficult, and I think it's interesting to see how does the need for control and certainty manifest in your life. So for some people, it can be symptoms of anxiety, where they say that they're having trouble falling asleep. They might have physical symptoms of panic, their heart is racing, their palms are sweaty. So I'd say first and foremost, don't be afraid to get help. So if you happen to be lucky enough to have health insurance, turn the back of the card, call the number, and find a provider. Even just a few sessions of cognitive behavioral therapy can be so helpful. The other thing that I say is make a list of what you can control and what you can't. And what I mean by that is productive worry is getting your wheels spinning and getting them to actually cause acceleration, not spinning in the mud and not getting anywhere. So for example, a lot of people say, well, I have travel coming up and I don't know what can happen. It might get canceled. And I said, okay, well, let's look at what you can do. Find out the cancellation policies for the hotel and the airlines. Can you get travel insurance? What happens if you get quarantined? Do you have the resources to stay there longer? So these are kind of the more productive, concrete aspects of what you can do.
Yeah.
And then the rest is let go and have fun. Okay, so if the best case, I think I say, plan for the worst, but really envision and expect the best. So also plan about the good side of the trip. If things did work out, what would that look like? What would be your favorite restaurant? Where do you want to go sightseeing? So really have both planned out, the good and the bad.
Yeah, well, with the new year comes New Year's resolution. So a lot of people right now looking ahead, probably thinking about, what their resolution is for 2022. So how can we make sure that we're not setting unrealistic goals for ourselves?
Absolutely. So one thing I say is, really setting yourself up for success is about planning ahead, connecting your goals to your larger purpose in life. So what is it that you value? So let's say you say, I want to have more time with my family, or I want to get into shape. Actually having to schedule it in every day, if you can. I call them the 4 M's of mental health: movement, mindfulness, mastery, and meaningful engagement. So these are my 4 top values, and they're science-backed and evidence-based, and we know that they all can lead to health and happiness, but you might have different priorities. But the key is that you schedule it in every single day. The biggest mistake that people make is thinking that intensity is more important than consistency. So I say, like, go back to the, the tortoise and the hare, and who wins, right? Like, it's the slow and the steady. Your habits really define your life. That's really important. If you want to say, what is important to that person? I would say, ask them how they spend their time. How they spend their time will tell you everything about what's important. And if your time isn't spent aligned with what your values, your intentions, your goals, your larger purpose in life is, then come back and write them down. It's really important to have a vision board, to have this end result, and then use your daily habits to guide you, to lead you there.
Really great advice. We really appreciate it. I like the 4 M's. Thanks so much, Dr. Varma, for all of your advice. And have a wonderful new year.
Thank you. Same to you. Thank you for having me.
All right, take care.